Welcome back, everybody. This is Coach Reese with Coach Loretta and special guest Coach Scott coming at you today. We are going to talk about an awesome race. We're going to talk about Scott's fifth finish at Hennepin 100. Like to do a race like Hennepin once is a feat. To do it a couple times is amazing, and to have finishes at three, and let alone we were just talking offline about your five finishes at Tunnel Hill too. So you have plenty of experience and wisdom that we can't wait to dive in today. But real quick, Coach Loretta, what's going on with you? What's new?
Oh, geez, you just caught me off by surprise there. I wasn't really thinking about me. I was thinking about Scott. Just really sticking to training, loving the cooler weather. It has warmed back up a little bit this week in Michigan, but seeing the fall colors out there really makes the run really enjoyable. So that's been my focus.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's about where I've been too. It's been more recovery and base building for me and trying to not get FOMO from not signing up for races that my friends are doing in the fall, because I understand that, like, hey, I need to step back, let my injuries heal a little bit, slowly build up, and then come back in 2025 swinging. But loving the fall weather for sure. And Coach Scott, what's your recovery been like since Hennepin?
Pretty good. My feet were a little bit tender and I'm probably gonna lose a couple toenails, but I had no major blisters, no major issues. Feeling pretty good. I was tired, of course, and needed to recover a little bit cardio-wise, but feel pretty good. Feel
Good.
pretty good, not beat up.
That's amazing.
Good.
But
So
Coach Reese, I wanted to say something though. I wanted to congratulate you on all of your accomplishments. Oh my goodness. You not only did you win Hennepin, which I want to talk more about later, but looking at your post, this year you did the Frozen Gnome first place, Skunk Ape first place, Potawatomi 50 first place and record, Galena Sky first place and record, Okie Doke, whatever that is, first place, and of course topped it off with Hennepin. Wow. And Coach Lorette
Coach,
she has also won races. And so I just want to let you guys know that we all share one thing in common. We all have won races.
Yay.
I won,
we're
however, the
and what
Applegate
the
Trail.
listeners.
I won the Applegate Trails 100K. Okay. It was a race that my buddy Josh Sanders put together in his neighborhood, put it on Ultra Sign Up. About 4 people signed up. He had a clock. He had us go out. We ran. Everybody dropped out except me. So I finished and won.
That's the thing about ultras, right?
The
Anybody
only
can
kind of
win.
race I could win.
Yep. It's always a toss up.
Oh
But so
man.
the listeners should know too that, like, this is what we all love about coaching with each other, is that, like, we have such a, like, powerhouse of experience and knowledge to help other people. And that's why we wanted to have Coach Scott on today, was because we want to dig into, like, what does it take to finish your fifth 100-mile race? What does it look like? Because I mean, you just said that you came across with, like, hardly any injuries. If we want to call, like, lost toenails and, like, needing some more sleep as kind of like the golden egg that we should all strive for when it comes for these races, like, like, I want to dive into that, because there's so many people who, they come out, they pull something, they roll something, their ankles swell, they have to take extensive time off. Like, coming into your fifth Hennepin race, walk us through the day and with, like, how that started, how it unfolded, and then we can kind of get back into a little bit of the training and the preparation for it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You take that bus ride all the way up to Sinisippi Park, and it's dark and you're a little cold and a little nervous and you didn't probably get enough sleep because you sort of are restless, and you take that bus ride in a little school bus with those tiny little seats, and then you get to the park, wait through the long porta potty line, you get ready to start, and then the national anthem, of course, and Michelle, always so encouraging and kind and just wonderful. And then that start, at sunrise through the park and winding around, through town and then across the river and to the canal, just magical. It's just so wonderful. That morning mist coming up off the canal and off the lake is just so beautiful. everybody's kind of grouped up still, the field isn't too spread apart. So you hear the timers going off all over the place for people doing intervals, and you hear the chit chat and the conversations, and I just love that. I love the start so much.
That
It's
gives
just,
me goosebumps. It makes me want to be on the start line.
oh, it's so exciting. It's just electric. Of course,
I just got lost in my own head thinking about your visualization there.
It was
Reese was
good.
already 3 miles ahead of the pack at that point.
Reese
You
is
know,
like,
it
timers with
wasn't.
beepers? I didn't hear those. And that's why I'm really excited about this show, because we also did one with Reese and a view of his race,
Mm,
from winning Hennepin 100. And I heard from some people that said there were things that he missed. And I'm like, it was probably because he was at a different place in the race that didn't
yeah,
know. So I'm curious to talk to you a little bit about that
yeah.
as we go on.
Reese, when you look at Reese's finish time as, M1 and me as almost the last ass, Reese ran more than 2 times as fast as me. He could have ran all the way to the end, turn around, and run all the way back in the time it took me to finish. Seriously.
Now,
So
guys, I love you guys. Thank you for tooting my own horn. But Coach, we didn't have you on the podcast to talk about me. Let's
well,
let's
I
so
yeah.
you start your race, you're going through the mist. And I completely agree. It's a wonderfully magical morning because this sunrise takes so long at that time of year, right? So it's not like the summer sun where it pops up and it's already good. It's such a long and beautiful, and if I remember correctly, it was red and it was orange and a little bit purple, and you contrast that with the blue.
So good.
So what a magical experience to share with other people.
Yeah.
So we know that from having you on different podcasts, you're a huge fan of the walk around intervals. Can you
Oh
take
yeah.
us through a little bit of that strategy and how that played through the day?
Yes. Yes. I was so grateful because my friend Kirsten from Arizona, she used to live in Kalamazoo near me, and had run with her a bunch of times before and stuff, and knew her a little bit. She was doing Hennepin, and also kind of was looking for somebody to pal up with. And so we just kind of formed a good connection, and we just kept going. And she was doing the intervals 3 and 1, and we just did that all day through the heat of the day, just kept on going. We had really similar strategies when it come to aid stations. And so, we weren't really waiting for each other or holding each other up. We were just kind of traveling through the day together and just did that, all day. She had crew, and they were really attentive, and took great care of her and also me because I was there with her. So I was super grateful for that. I didn't have crew this year. So it was really nice to have some friendly faces out there, and some friends, that were, going to support her, and also that I could kind of, receive some encouragement from too. So super good. We got through the day. It got hot. It was windy and hot. Um, and we were having to, pay attention to hydration and cooling. Luckily there was a lot of ice out on the course. Michelle made great plans so that all the aid stations had ice, and everybody was available to kind of help you cool and take care of yourself and stay hydrated. So we just, kind of went slow and steady, on the 3 and 1 interval method, all day, all afternoon.
At what point did you start icing?
Oh man, I like ice. So, I grab ice as soon as I can, probably 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. when it's starting to warm up.
Mhm.
I think we got up into the 80s that day or close. So it was hot. And we tried to, use as much shade as we could. So there's a little bit of shade maybe on the edge of the trail. So we were kind of always seeking that out, whenever we had it, so that we weren't directly in the sun. And then Kirsten had, from Arizona, she's used to running in heat, so she had a drape. It's this really cool drape that had like a elastic cord around the front, and it would rest across the brim of your hat, and then the drape kind of like hung down on the back to keep the sun off of her neck. So I wish I had one of those, but I had an ice bandana, and I had, ice in my pockets and under my hat, and I used all my heat techniques because it was warm enough that that temperature was a factor.
Right. And it's so smart to start earlier than later, right? Because once you start too late, you're kind of trying to dig yourself out. Those hats are nice. I used one of those at Cocodona too. It's just a little piece that like sat on my regular hat,
Yeah.
and it was nice and cooling. I'd never used it till Cocodona, but I'm like, oh, this is kind of a good thing. So my one of my athletes was also there, and he said that the sun was so bright that you were just running into it for hours and hours. And that was one thing that Reese didn't really highlight as much. And so I wondered if you wanted to talk about that a little bit. He said it was just so hard to even see.
Yeah, yeah, the sun was definitely bright. You know, we both had sunglasses and hats with a brim. So, you know, that helped cut down quite a bit of it. But yeah, it was very bright for sure. We were, you know, spraying down with sunscreen and everything, you know, whenever we could. So just trying to manage all that. But yeah. And then, you know, when you go through those tunnels, those culverts under the road, it's very disorienting because your eyes are used to all that bright sunlight, and then you go into that darker, you know, sort of corrugated tube, and it's a little disorienting, you know, to sort of have to shift your focus, um, and kind of manage that. So
Right. It's almost like you can't see and you can't really see your footing at that point. You're just kind of finding your way.
it's a little sketchy. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So.
How was your nutrition throughout the day? Were there highs and lows with how your stomach was handling?
No, I was pretty good. I mean, I'm lucky, you know, I'm very fortunate. I can eat anything. And no, I was fine. I mean, we paid attention to sodium. You know, I had some sodium with electrolyte caps, like a chewable one, kind of like giant sweet tarts, you know, or giant Smarties. And so, you know, I was popping those, and Kirsten was, you know, using her sodium, and just trying to pick the salty snacks, you know, when we found them at aid stations, and you know, just trying to keep some good food going in, you know, wraps and roll-ups and quesadillas and, you know, PB&Js, whatever we could find out there. Um, so no, never really had a problem, you know, gut-wise. You know, it was pretty solid.
And
Have
is
you
that how you typically train too, or like what's your training method? Because there's some people that say I have an iron stomach, and then there's some people that say I've trained my iron stomach. Like, where do you fall into that?
I think I've always had it.
Okay.
I think I've always had it. I've always had, you know, pretty solid GI system. Um, I usually train fasted for the most part, you know, on shorter training runs. You know, I'll start out with you know, something at the beginning of the day, you know, some kind of breakfast and or a protein shake or something, you know, an hour or so before my workout on the weekends. But generally, you know, I kind of keep the calorie intake to a minimum when I'm just training. Um, and then, you know, come race day, you know, try to actually be much more planful and intentional about how many calories in per hour. Um, and try to, you know, I set my watch, you know, so that I have a drink alarm and an eating alarm. And so I try to follow that, you know, at least a few sips every 15 minutes, you know, to kind of make sure I've got, you know, enough liquid going in and enough snacks, and I generally tend toward the solid food. I won't usually eat like the sweet stuff, you know, like the candy and the gummy bears and that stuff. I'll avoid that. I'll go for like, if there's fruit out there, I'll go for like fruit or something salty like olives or pickles or, you know, whatever. And then whatever kind of solid food, you know, wraps or hummus or roll-ups, pinwheels, you know, the stuff that's a little bit more substantial. And I usually bring along a Ziploc bag, and I put a couple extra pieces in there of whatever it is that I saw that I liked and looked good. So I'll stick a couple extra roll-ups in there and stick them in my pocket. And then when I'm doing the walk run intervals, you know, a couple intervals later, I'll pull that bag out and grab another piece of what I already had that I liked. And then I'll do that again in an interval or two after that, so that, you know, I can kind of keep the food going in over a little bit more prolonged period of time, instead of having the pressure to shove in a whole bunch of calories at the aid station only and then go for 6 miles, you know.
did you wear
So
a vest or do you hand carry a belt? What do you do?
vest. I had the vest with the bottles and snacks, you know, easily accessible. I like the Ultimate Direction vest with the pockets on the sides and in the top. And then the stuff that I don't need to access as much, you know, like if I had a jacket and I think I had an extra hat or something, you know, in the back stuffed in. With then also like some baby wipes, a first aid, you know, a little bag of first aid items, you know, like ointments and some nut butter and band-aids and stuff just in case, and some tape in case something, you know, gets blistery. So pretty light, but I always train with that too. I train with that vest even on a shorter run so that I'm just really used to carrying that extra weight and you know, just kind of in that sort of zone of expecting it to be there and just training with it. So
Nice. Do you
I
also,
love that golden tip of like bringing a little snack bag. You know, like I think, you know, like there's a lot of like even at races that are still cupped races, like there's a lot of cupless races out there, right? Like people will still bring their own like collapsible cup to an aid station because it's just easier to refill and then you can walk and you can take it. You don't have to worry about like throwing this disposable cup away. But having that plastic bag there in and of itself is great because like you said, it kind of helps you like spread out those calories over a period of time instead of like taking everything in. And I think too, like a big thing is like we have the nutrition that we carry, and then there's always gonna be that time where it's like you hit an aid station and there's just a food that you didn't expect there to be, but it's like that's just calling my name. And if you don't have that way of taking it with you, then it's like, okay, you end up eating too much of it. Maybe your body needs whatever there, like the sodium or whatever. But you know, if you put too much in, sometimes it can affect you later on for your walk or for your intervals. So I think that's great. I think more people should be carrying like their own cups as well as their own bags.
yeah, I mean, it works for me. You know, I wear shorts that have pockets, and so I always stick snacks in or something else in, you know, in those pockets, and
Yep.
that's a handy way to carry
I
some
do the
extra
same
calories.
thing. I have the reusable Ziplocs, so I just use them at all my races, and
Mhm.
it works well. And it's I like the reusable a little bit better because I can get in and out of them better. They don't like close, like they just like kind of open up a little wider, so I can grab them when I'm moving. But
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
How
Um,
about your
Kind of
oh,
a related tip, just one second, a little related tip that I got from Coach Val. Um, when you're at Kettle, her husband was crewing her, and he was giving her a Ziploc bag full of ice every time we crossed paths. And I was running with her, you know, through the whole course pretty much. And so she would use that ice bag, you know, to put it on her neck or under her hat or put it wherever she needed to cool. And then when it melted, she had, you know, ice water that she could drink.
oh,
And she would
that's a
hand
smart
that
tip.
bag off and get a new bag full of ice from him. And great technique. So that kind of got me thinking, you know, I need to do that, but with food. So
Right, right,
I got that idea from Coach Val.
right. That's a great hot tip too. Hey, how about drop bags? Do you use drop bags or no?
I did, yeah. I used little plastic bins with the latching handles on them that are kind of watertight, and put some Ziploc, some you know, duct tape on the top to identify it, you know, for me so I can see it easily from wherever I am. But yeah, I sent out drop boxes with stuff. I had some you know, socks and you know, nut butter and supplies. At the 50-mile one, I had an extra pair of shoes and some you know, gear for nighttime plus batteries for my lights. And yeah, I did. I had them stocked up. You know, I always kind of over prepare, you know. I empty them later and I think, wow, I didn't really need this or this or this, you know, but I'd rather have it and, you know, kind of be on the safe side. So
Yeah, that's what I always say too. I don't think you can like really overpack because you just never know. Like, and each
mhm.
race is so different that you might not have needed it at any race, and all of a sudden one race you're like, oh, I used that, and I'm glad I had it. But I've had it for the last 5 races when I finally used it. So
Yeah, for sure.
how about mentality during the race? Were there high points? Were there low points? Did you
Yeah,
struggle at all mentally?
yeah, yeah. You know, I didn't feel great going into this. You know, I'd struggled. This summer had been rough. I struggled at Western States, you know, did not finish there. That was really disappointing. It really got in my head. Felt like I'd really failed, you know, really had missed out, you know, on my golden opportunity, you know, just a lot of pity, self-pity, you know. And a couple of friends, kind of pointed out that I just needed to suck this up and get on, and move forward, and that I had had a wonderful opportunity and learned a ton. And, so I wasn't in the greatest of a place mentally, but, coming back to Hennepin, I know that event well. I know what to expect. Michelle is so wonderful, so welcoming, so kind. It was kind of like coming home. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, these are my people. Here we are. I'm gonna go home, kind of get comfortable, get to do this thing again, like I've enjoyed so many times. But I was low, I was having a low time. My friend Kirsten, like I said, it's great to have her companionship during, the whole thing, for the 50 miles, at least the first 50, because she was doing the 50 mile. At mile 20, I was feeling kind of rough. I was feeling like I just want to pull out. I just want to be done. I'm not into this today. But I saw Michelle. She was at an aid station, and she was like, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm kind of struggling a little bit." She gave me a huge hug. Here I am, sweaty and gross and grimy, and she didn't care. She gave me a huge hug, and it just boosted me. It was like, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And so kept grinding along, and then it was getting hotter. It was getting really hot at that point, but we just kept moving. And at some point, and you guys know this, I mean, you get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm feeling like this is going to happen today. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm more in the zone, more in the flow. And I was able to just kind of keep moving and keep going, and kind of thinking about, okay, I've got that turnaround at 50 to look forward to. I love that aid station out there with the tacos and everything, where the 100 turns around. And I thought, I just want to get out there and see those guys and get a taco. you know, that kept me motivated, got back into it. And by that time, Kirsten had finished her race because she was only going 50. So she was finished and happy.
Ooh, that's even harder, right?
PR. But now it was like, okay, now it's me time. It's time for me to reflect, be out here. It's dark. It's cooling down a little bit. I've got my lights. I'm comfortable. I'm confident. I feel like I'm over the hump. Uh, I'm just going to kind of think and reflect and just get in the zone, kind of think about all these Hennepins I've had the opportunity to participate in, and, kind of think about the people, who are helping. And it turned out that some of the people I knew that were actually there crewing another runner, the runner pulled out because he wasn't feeling well. He wasn't doing well. So he ended up pulling out, and then they didn't have anybody to crew. And so, kind of like an angel in the middle of the night, my friend Tracy all of a sudden was there at the aid station, and she was going to be helping me because her runner was off, to the hotel for the night. And I was like, wow, how wonderful is this? That she stuck around and wanted to do this for me and to help me, and, kind of help me, get through those dark hours. And I was just getting tired and just really, my eyes were getting so fatigued. And, it's hard staring at that little circle of light for so long. I was getting kind of bleary eyed, and, it's just rough. And it's not daylight. It's not going to be daylight for another 3 or 4 hours. That's a hard time for me. But there was Tracy again. And I said, Tracy, I just have to lay down for a minute. So she went to her car. She got her blanket, her pillow. She spread it out. I said, okay, just wake me up in like 10 or 15 minutes. And so I closed my eyes. I just curled up. I just slept for 10 or 15 minutes or so. And she came by and she said, okay, it's time to go. And so I popped up, and I felt rejuvenated. I felt just, great support, just, how wonderful and kind she was. And then boom, I was back at it, and I was like, okay, I'm going, I'm rolling. I'm going to do
Oh,
this.
I
And
love
keep going.
that. I love that
Yep.
so much. My athlete
Mhm.
mentioned that when it got dark, there was not really a moon. It was just like pitch black there that night. Do you
Mhm.
remember that?
Mhm. Yeah, I did not see the moon. In previous years, it's so clear and you're so far out and there's so little ambient light that the stars are just like vivid. They're just beautiful out there. I didn't see as much of that this time. There was a little bit of thin cloud cover. Yeah, yeah. But it's
So can oh, I'm sorry. Were you
no,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
something? Okay. I was gonna say comparing years, right? Because you have 5 years now of Hennepin finishes. Like they're all one of a kind.
Mm.
But what are some of the common threads between the races that you consistently fall back towards? And what are some of the challenges that come about every time you line up again for the same race that you know you've completed before?
Those are great questions. Great questions. You know, knowing the race, knowing the course, kind of having been there, you know, I don't have as much anxiety about the unknown because it's kind of familiar. It's kind of like coming home again. You know, when you get to this point, you know, here's this building, or here's that feature, or here's this thing, or, you know, oh, I remember this tunnel from before. You know, you kind of have those things to look forward to, those milestones, you know, that help you know kind of how you're progressing. The challenges on that course have always for me been the walnuts.
Yep.
Not stepping on those walnuts.
Yes.
Those things. Are they walnuts?
Yeah, they're walnuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one
They
year there were,
hide. They hide under the leaves there.
oh yeah, you can have leaves over them. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and you know, sometimes the trains that go by. There's a train line that goes along one part of the course, and those freight trains are flying through there so fast, and they can be just like miles long. And you know, that kind of gets in my head a little bit because that's so much power and so much speed. It's kind of like, oof, you know, it's a little frightening. But um, the actual challenge to that course, I think, not in 24, but in 23, my feet were just completely tenderized, because it seemed to me like they had repaired the course in sections with like crushed concrete instead of gravel. And so it's jagged and sharp. And my feet were just really, really tenderized. And, you know, it hurt to set them down because they were just so, you know, sharp pain. So this year I had rock plates in my shoes. Um, Ultra sells a rock plate that you can trim to fit. And so I had those in both sets of shoes I wore. And, you know, that helps distribute the weight. Like if you have a sharp rock, it kind of distributes the weight out a little bit instead of in one point. And that helped a ton. My feet were much, much better this year. So I was happy about that. And I didn't have blistering and, you know, all the normal stuff that would happen. So
How about mentally? So I know personally, and this question almost comes from like my insecurity, right? Is when you line up to a similar event that you've done in the past, like how do you mentally handle knowing that you've accomplished X time or you've had a great time before? And what is it like as you line up for that next one, knowing I have 100 miles and I want this to be as magical of an experience as what I remember it to be, but I also, know that I've already finished this course at a particular time. Are there mental monkeys that kind of hang around like that? Or do you try to block those out completely and just say, you know what, this year is its own year? Like, what's the mental strategy?
yeah, that's kind of my approach. You know, this year is its own year. This is going to be an adventure. You know, I get to do this. I'm going to be able to do this with my friend Kirsten. Um, you know, enjoy this adventure. I'm going to get as many minutes per dollar as I can. You know, I want to try to get in there under 30 hours. I think I can. And I did, you know, I did. It was not my fastest Hennepin. It was not my slowest Hennepin. It was somewhere in between all that. And so I was happy about that. I was pleased. You know, I didn't have too many um, monkeys in my brain about that part, at least. You know, it was kind of before the race, you know, for me, just kind of the mojo. I needed
Right.
to get the mojo in line.
Yeah.
So,
And
but
how about nutritionally? Say like Hennepin year 5 versus Hennepin year 1. Has anything really changed for you? You like X foods, or instead of eating something every 30 minutes, you're eating every 20 minutes? how have you evolved your strategy over your Hennepin career?
Yeah, great question. When I first started, I was using more gels. I had them all laid out. I had all the gels, kind of in my mind, like, okay, this many for this much, and I'm going to get 6 more at my next box. I'm going to get this. And, you know, I kind of did it more. I didn't rely on aid stations as much. I kind of did it more with my own strategy, my own fuel, my own kind of approach. But the aid stations are so darn good there. And the volunteers are so on point and everything, and they're runners, they're clubs and other groups and things, and they know what you need, and so I've come to rely on them more and more, I think. And so I didn't bring as much. I think I maybe only had 1 gel this time, whereas the first time I probably had 20 gels, so.
Yeah. What about your race strategy? Has that changed over the years from your first to now?
Yeah, at first I wasn't doing intervals at first. So that has definitely become a part of this. And, I've become more and more convinced that that's the way to do a really long endurance event for me, at least. So that strategy. And also, trying to just keep that mental um, sort of mindset in place where it's like, okay, this is going to be a long time. There's going to be highs and lows. When the low comes, don't give into it, just kind of get through it. And also rely on people, rely on other people to help boost you because, they're there for that. Um, I initially thought, this is something that you just do on your own. You just do this. That's it. It's a solo event. It's really not, I mean, it really does take other people, anything I've ever accomplished, anytime I've ever accomplished anything, it's because somebody was there to help me, support me, encourage me. I can't do this stuff on my own. It really takes all this support and sort of encouragement to make these things happen. So this is not something that you can just say, oh, I just did this all myself. I mean, it's really a different thing than that, I think,
I would agree. Community is huge. I really remember Hennepin was my first 100, and I really remember the support of the aid stations was incredible. I had no idea what to expect that day, but what I grew to look forward to was the next aid station because they would decorate the aid stations and they were there. They wanted to do everything for you, and it was I give you a little boost each time. You might start feeling exhausted, like you can't keep going, and then you'd get to the next aid station and you'd get all of this enthusiasm, and then you'd move on to the next one, and it just made it such a fun day.
Oh, it's a total reset. Total reset. Yeah, you can feel lousy and you walk out of there feeling so great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now compare that to all of your Tunnel Hill finishes. Do you take all the lessons from Hennepin and try to apply them to Tunnel Hill, or do you have some differences? Because they're fairly similar races. Now they're different in the sense that Tunnel Hill has more elevation gain. There is the massive tunnel itself where you almost go into complete pitch black darkness, where you can always see a little sliver of light, but I know that's kind of one thing that people either look forward to or are kind of anxious about is being in the darkness of the tunnel. The aid stations, how does 5 finishes at Hennepin compare in strategy, nutrition, mindset to the 5 finishes at Tunnel Hill?
Yeah, okay, great question. Wow, Reese, good question. Uh, for me, the course at Tunnel is more grueling. There's certain sections of that course where the aid stations are farther apart and it just seems like it's monotonous and it's like, oh man, we are never going to get there. And there's a long grade up to the tunnel that just seems to go on forever and ever, and it comes at a time when you're tired, usually. I'm tired. So that grade up to the hill, up to the tunnel, that's a tough one for me. It just seems forever long.
Yeah, and that's kind of the spot where there's not a lot of aid either. You like just feel like you're there forever, and you sure you're going to be there, and
There
you're
you go.
not there.
You're not. You think it's maybe around the next bend and it's not. And it's maybe around the next bend and it's not. And it's not. But
I would.
yeah, it's tough. And then you have that down, to the turnaround on the north end of the course. You have a pretty down, a pretty good grade down. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to come back up this. So
I know from firsthand last year too, that hill, even knowing that hill is there, when you're running on, like, imagine a treadmill, right? When you're running on like 2% grade, like like you don't really, like, you can't really perceive it, right? So you almost have to just keep reminding yourself, like, okay, it feels harder, not because I'm bonking or because I'm dead right now, but I'm moving uphill. But it also, you can't, like, almost at certain points, like, you can't even see it go up. You can't see the hill. You can't see the top of it, you know?
yeah, yeah. In terms of like fueling and stuff, I don't know. The aid stations at Tunnel are quite good. They have really good hot food and they have like heaters and fires going usually. So I mean, it's the aid stations are great supports. And really really nice, but a little more dangerous because if you sit too close to the fire and you start getting warmed up and start to slow down, you can easily get stuck there. So you really gotta beware the chair at Tunnel.
That's right.
That's awesome. So what are the years you ran Hennepin? Do you remember what years that you've been there?
Okay, so I finished 24 and 23. 22 was the year I had a broken fibula and my doctor cleared me to race it, but I was not feeling very good at like 40 and so pulled the plug at 50 and got a 50-mile medal, but got a DNF for the 100. So I was in 22. So then 21 and 20 and 19 it must have been.
Nice.
Started it.
What was your favorite year? Can you pick a favorite year?
Oh, they're all so great. I mean, so wonderful. I think this last year probably meant the most, because it seemed like it was the hardest, as coming out of a dark place, and it was difficult, and the friendship and the support and the encouragement that I got from my friends and people that were there, and really kind of stuck around and stuck with me through it, made a huge impact. My friend Allie was there also. She paced me in from 75 to the end. And, that was just a high point because she's a really, really strong, really fast runner. And she didn't have to stick with me and slog it in, to the end, but she did. And she kept me going and we kept talking and she's so encouraging. She really helped me in. So I think this last year would be the one that means the most to me because it is the fifth one, and I was really happy to be able to complete that, and just felt very grateful, and just had so much love and support from people. So yeah, I
Nice.
think that meant the most. Yeah, and plus, as a result, I got this.
Oh, that's
There we
awesome.
go.
I realize that was
For the
sure.
proof.
Amazing. I love
That's right.
it.
One of these.
Very
So
cool.
Reese has done a lot of cool stuff, and he's got a lot of awards, but
He
you don't
doesn't
win.
have that, that's for sure.
That's right. That's that's
He's not
that's
that
that's
cool,
an
Scott.
achievement for sure. Wait, so does that mean that you've had Hennepin and Tunnel Hill 100s line up in the same year?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's a topic that we need to touch on then too, is you've done all of these. So you go from Hennepin flat and fast, and then you go to Tunnel Hill flat and fast. And what is that, like 5 weeks
It's
difference?
tight.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
Hennepin's first week of October, Tunnel
yeah,
Hill is second week of November, right?
yeah, yeah. The big issue, the big challenge is healing my feet. I can recover
Mm.
cardio wise and everything else, but healing the feet. If you got a toenail that's not looking really good and it needs to come off, yeah, what do you do about that? Do you force it off or do you kind of let it go and just let it kind of happen naturally? What do you do about that? Healing your feet, taking care of them is really crucial because when it comes to tunnel hill time, if your feet are in rough shape, that could really be a problem.
Mhm.
So
So what does your foot care typically look like? And how do you prepare your feet for racing? Like some people have like, you know, I tape or I lube and I tape and I wear particular socks. Like, what do you do? What do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah. Seems like, yeah, it seems like there's two camps. One, I want to keep my feet soft and supple, and the other camp is, I want to toughen up my feet, get them hard, and just really, ready to kick a football barefoot. I kind of tend toward the end of, kind of keeping them tough. So, I walk around a lot without socks and shoes, kind of keep my foot muscles as strong as possible, keep my calluses thinned out. I develop calluses in a couple of areas and so try to keep them thinned out as much as possible without getting too thin that they become a problem.
For those of you that can't see, Reese is showing us his foot.
Did you see Coach Scott? Sorry, not to distract. I just wanted to visually affirm I'm a huge fan of barefoot and just keeping
Barefoot.
your feet like in
Yeah.
touch with the ground. And
Yeah.
that's what I do all podcasts. I'm doing this, I'm splaying my toes. I'll kind of like arch them and like I'll balance on like my big toes and my heel and just kind of shift around and just get my feet in touch with the ground. And there's even times too where my mom still laughs because every once in a while, like she'll go across the neighborhood from, like when I was growing up, I would just go for barefoot walks on the concrete, which is not a good idea if you've never done that before. Like definitely caution, don't go out for too long, right? But I think too that like just to reaffirm like your stances, I always think to myself like if I can make it tougher in training, and then if I can like have the strategy on race day to take care of it better, then I'm taking care of a stronger implement.
That's my goal. Yep.
So I'm opposite. I'm opposite of you guys. I'm gonna disagree. I have my feet are pristine. That's what my husband says. Even after the race, they're like perfect. I put lotion on them every night before bed. They're nice and smooth, and I do not blister. I do not have any race issues with my feet.
That's why I said there's two camps on this.
So I got shoes on. I'm not standing around with my toes right now.
And everybody's gonna be different. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to distract from what you were saying, Coach.
Yeah, this kind of went. We just kind of got sidelined here. Sorry.
We just lost viewers, is what happened when people saw my feet.
I try to keep my toenails, short and trimmed and smooth so they're not snagging on each other because my toes sometimes will fight each other and they kind of dig into each other. So I kind of keep them, not sharp. And then I lube them up, on race day. I use foot goo or run goo. It's like a thick paste that, you slather all around. And then I always go with the toe socks and, slip those toe socks on. And then, around the midpoint, usually I'll do a re-lube and sock change and shoe change with something that's got a little bit more space to it than what I was running in for the first 50. And then just kind of go back out. And then, if need be, I try to treat blisters. If I have a blister happening or a hot spot, I will tape it with either, there's like a super sticky paper tape that you can get, or sometimes there's a foam tape I'll use to just try to give it a little extra cushioning and to keep it intact, to keep it from tearing, so yeah. So nothing fancy, just kind of basic stuff.
My question for you is, it's a hard double to do Hennepin and come back and do Tunnel Hill, not just physically, it's more mentally. Like, how do you get yourself back in the game? Because it's, running 100 is no easy feat, right? So how do you get yourself back to that start line in a good spot so that you're, ready to finish that race?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think going into the training block, knowing that, okay, we're going to be doing back-to-backs and, just kind of being mentally prepared for that, trying to recover, efficiently and, prepare again is key, obviously. So, just kind of keeping that mindset that, okay, yep, we completed this. You did it, you got Hennepin done, you finished it, you did well. Now it's time to recover and now repeat it. You just did it, you can do it again. And so, make this happen. And I enjoy that course too. That's a different crowd. Steve Durbin is a great race director. He runs a great event. It's really a fun time down there. I enjoy going down there because usually he has, you know, really great speakers and, you know, a great race atmosphere. You know, Laz is typically there, which is really amazing. And some others, you know, some other big names. So it's just a fun event. There's a lot of electricity around that event as well. So it's like, wow, you know, these two events are just, you know, really something to look forward to.
Right. Is it 5 and done, or will you keep going? Are you going for number 6 at Tunnel Hill this year, or?
No, no, it's 5 and done.
Okay.
Because, you know, like I was saying earlier, I've received so much from people, you know. It's time for me to try to give back and either do more coaching, do volunteering, crewing, pacing, you know, something to try to balance that out, because I feel like I've received so much from people. I need to, you know, kind of balance that back a little bit. So,
Nice.
so yeah,
I love that. I was going to ask you what was next, but it sounds like that is next.
that's
It's
next.
helping your friends, helping others.
Right.
Is there anything that's on the calendar as far as an event that you are looking forward to, or are you going to take that as it comes?
I'm doing the Hootenanny 12-hour race this weekend at one of my favorite places, old Boy Scout camp north of Chelsea, Michigan.
That's
So
only like 20 minutes from me, so
come on out.
I should come by. Yeah.
So gonna do that and just have fun, just enjoy that. It's a very low key, very casual event. And then I have a couple other things, you know, holiday type runs, you know, just like halves and stuff. But I'm going to be doing an adventure race this winter. I've started to get into tries and adventure racing. And I'm going to be doing a Michigan adventure race, which involves like trail running, snowshoeing, and like a bunch of activities at checkpoints that you have to find with a map and a compass, no GPS. There are like challenging events. It's kind of like the what is that show where you have to go and do these different things? Not like the Eco Challenge or the, you know, but there's one thing where I think what they're going to have you do is like shoot a water balloon at a target with like a slingshot that you lay on your back like a turtle, and you put the loops over your feet and pull the slingshot back, and you try to launch the balloon onto the target.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun.
Physical
That's
challenge.
awesome.
Like the Amazing Race or something. Is that what you're
Amazing race,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, yeah. So stuff like that. So just trying to have fun, you know, just trying to mix it up, just enjoy, you know, the stuff like that that's out there. So I did an adventure try this summer that was mountain biking, paddle boarding, and trail running on the North Country Trail, and that was really a great time. I enjoyed that. So just trying to mix it up, you know, with some cool new stuff like that. So
Love it. That sounds amazing.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach. It's always great to learn from your expertise and your knowledge, because not only are you knowledgeable, but you're wise. You have the experience behind you. So it's always great because I know whenever I talk with you, I'm always applying lessons to my life as well as to other athletes that I'm working with. So, like I said before, it's always great to get on this big think tank and be with you guys. So thank you so much.
thank you guys so much. You know, I mean, it's amazing. You know, we have such an inclusive group here because Reese, the very fastest of the fastest, the winner, and then you have me all the way at the other end. You know, just having fun, getting the most minutes per dollar. You know, so we've got this whole range. You know, it's such a great range of people and perspectives and stuff. And I appreciate, you know, talking with you guys and having me on here today. What
Yeah.
an honor.
Totally.
Yeah, super. So we've certainly learned a lot from you, Scott. So we do appreciate having you on. But Scott is accepting new athletes. So if anybody's interested in taking working with Coach Scott, you can reach out to me at Loretta at Ornery Racing. Or how does that go? Loretta.ornerymilracing@gmail.com. I think that's it. I don't know. But anyhow, so reach out to me and I can get you connected with Scott, and you can learn so much from him. So yeah, again, thanks. And it was good to see you guys. And good luck at your hootenanny this weekend.
Thanks.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.